In this video, I want to quickly work through question 4 of practical 3 and try and give you a hint of things to look out for when you answer a question like this. The basic of this question is that people who earn up to 2,000 Rand do not pay tax, and people that earn more than 2,000 pay tax. One of the things to look out for when you read through a question is to see whether you don't have any constants. Those are values that will be the same every time you run the program. Now in this case, you've got this cutoff point of 2,000 Rand, determining whether someone pays tax or not. So you would be declaring a constant, which is a double, because you're working with monetary values of 2,000 Rand. So that is the declaration of the constant. It is clear that what you need to read in from the user is a person's salary. So when you read through a question, ask yourself, what do you need to ask from the user? And first of all, we clearly see that we need to read in a person's salary. At some stage, we also need to read in the tax, but we need to think about that later. We need to be on the lookout when we read through a question whether there are any if statements needed. And here we can clearly see the question says, if he earns more than 2,000 Rand. So we can see that this is an if statement, and the if statement is simply if salary is greater than the cutoff point. So somehow you know that you will have an if statement that looks like what we have on the screen. Okay, so when one has an if statement, you have a true part and a false part of that statement. So you now need to go through your question and say to yourself, what happens in the true part and what happens in the false part? Now I've bold-faced everything in the question that has to do with the true part. If the person earns more than 2,000 Rand, you need to request the percentage tax the person needs to pay. So you need to request a percentage tax from the user, read in the tax, and then you'll see that the display there, you obviously need to calculate that tax, and then you need to calculate and display the payout. What is the final amount that will be paid out? So what is the false part? So clearly if the statement is false, that means the person does not pay any tax. So all you need to do if you look at the bold-faced part of the question is simply print out the final payout, which is the original salary. So this is simply showing how we take the comments or the English language into actual C# coding. Reading in the tax as a percentage is simply a prompt, enter tax, and then reading it into a double variable. Notice again we have a double because we're expecting a percentage value, and notice the double dot parse. The second thing that needs to happen is to calculate the tax. So the tax amount is tax times salary because tax was read in as a percentage. And then you need to print out the final answer. Now if you look at your output, there are two variables involved. The first one is the tax amount, and the second one is the final payout. So notice the two placeholders, 0C2 and 1C2. A reminder, the C2, it means you're working with a currency and you're formatting to 2 decimal places. So the first variable, 0, is the tax amount. The second variable is the expression salary minus tax amount. So we do the same regarding the code for the false part of the if statement, and that's just one statement because we don't need to do any calculations regarding tax. So we simply have one placeholder, 0C2, which is the original salary that was entered by the user. A quick comment on the true and the false part. Notice that the true part has more than one statement. So it is surrounded by the two curly brackets in yellow here. And the false part has only one statement, so we don't need the brackets in the false part. So that is the final code for this question. Just to highlight a few things, notice where the constant is declared, it's above the heading of the main method. Then after that you read in the salary, and then you have your if statement.